You don't know him, husband's mistress exclaimed.
You don't know him. Husband's mistress exclaimed, and I took out his old jacket from the closet, in the pocket of which was someone else's phone. 28 missed calls. Irina stared at the phone screen in disbelief, which she had just found in the pocket of her husband's old jacket. Andrei, why do you need a second phone? She was standing in the storage room, holding a battered leather case with an unfamiliar device in her hands. There were boxes of things scattered around that she was going to sort on this Saturday morning. The smell of mothballs and old clothes was in the air. An indistinct sound came from the room, which the husband made without looking up from the laptop screen. What did you say? Irina went out into the corridor, still holding the discovered phone in her hands. I'm asking, where did you get the other phone? Andrei raised his head. His gaze lingered for a moment on the black case in her hands, and then slid to the side. Oh, that. A worker, an old one. I thought I threw it away a long time ago. Something in his voice made Irina shudder. Over the course of 20 years of marriage, she had learned to detect the slightest changes in her husband's intonation. That casual tone. That's what he said when he lied. A worker. She walked into the room, feeling her heart begin to beat faster. Why didn't I know anything about it? IRA, what kind of interrogation is this? Andrei tried to smile, but the smile turned out to be forced. You never know what kind of work phones I had. Her fingers pressed the power button on their own. The screen lit up. Then why is it working? And why? She paused, looking at the date of the last incoming call. Why was the last call last night? There was silence in the room. It was so dense and heavy that you could feel it physically. Somewhere in the kitchen, tap water was monotonously dripping drip 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 as if counting down the seconds to the moment when the familiar world would collapse. Andrei slowly closed the laptop. Give it here, his voice became harsh. No. Irina did not recognize her own voice, it was quiet and alien. She took a step back, still staring at the screen. Ira, don't be silly. Give me the phone. Who is the kitten? Her finger schemed over the contact list. And beloved V? Andrei, who is this? He stood up. In 2 steps, he was next to her, tried to pick up the phone, but Irina recoiled, clutching the phone to her chest. Her heart was pounding like crazy. So you were late at work at 9 o'clock last night. She flipped through the messages, feeling nausea rise in her throat. Good night, honey. I love you. Are these also work messages? Stop being hysterical. Are you okay? Irina looked at her husband with concern. She had never seen him like this. His face had gone pale, muscles were working in his cheeks, and his gaze had become hard. 5 years. I'm rereading these messages, they were written 5 years ago. 5 years, Andrei. It's not a tantrum. This. She stammered, unable to find the right words. The October sun was shining brightly outside the window. It was an ordinary Saturday morning. She planned to sort out the pantry and then cook borscht. Andrei loved borscht on weekends. Did he love you? How do we talk about him now, in the present or the past tense? Let's talk calmly. Andrei tiredly rubbed the bridge of his nose with a familiar gesture. You've got it all wrong. Wrong. Irina smiled bitterly. What exactly did I misunderstand? Here's a picture of you with a woman at sea. 3 years ago. You told me you were going on a business trip to Novosibirsk. IRA. 5 years, she repeated, as if she couldn't comprehend the figure. For 5 years I lived with a stranger. I cooked for you, washed for you, waited for you. And you. The doorbell rang, startling them both. It's probably the neighbor behind the salt, Irina said automatically. She promised to come by. Andrei headed for the door. I'll get it. No. Irina suddenly exclaimed. Stop. Is that her? Did she decide to come here? There was another pause, during which the bell rang once more, insistently and insistently. What's the difference? Andrei was looking past his wife. Sooner or later it had to happen. We are with Vera. Vera, Irina nodded, as if she had decided something for herself. So her name is Vera. She went to the window. A blonde woman in a red coat was standing at the entrance below. Young, beautiful. Not at all like her, Irina. 20 years of marriage suddenly flashed before my eyes, the first date, the wedding, the birth of my son, vacations, holidays, weekdays. All this time, she lived in a fictional world where her husband was loyal and loving. And the real Andrei was creating a parallel reality with another woman. I'll open it now, her husband's voice sounded muffled. Just don't make any scenes. We all need to talk. Irina turned to him, and he involuntarily stepped back. The look of his always accommodating wife was so unfamiliar. No scenes. She suddenly laughed, and the sound sent shivers down Andrei's spine. Okay. There will be no scenes. With a quick movement, she unlocked the phone and found the right contact. Then she pressed the call button. At the entrance, a woman in a red coat took a phone out of her bag. Hello, a young female voice came from the phone. Honey, I'm downstairs. Come down. Irina looked at her husband in silence. In all her 20 years, she had never seen him so confused. Faith. Andrei tried to take the phone from his wife. Wait a minute. Andrei? There was concern on the phone. What happened? Why are you silent? Hello, Vera, Irina's voice sounded unexpectedly calm. This is Andrei's wife speaking. Go up to the 7th floor, apartment 703. I think we really need to talk. She ended the conversation and turned to her husband. Well, what about you? Meet yours, a guest. Ira, listen to me. Andrei passed his hand over his face. I didn't want it to happen like this. What did you expect? She sat down on the couch, still holding her ill-fated phone in her hands. So that I can stay in the dark for the rest of my life. Or for me to leave on my own, saving you the need to explain anything? The doorbell rang, this time hesitantly and uncertainly. Andrei hurried to the door. Irina was sitting looking at a picture of her family hanging on the wall. There were 3 of them in the picture, she, Andrei, and their son Dimka, who was now studying in Moscow. All 3 of them were smiling, happy. I wonder if he wrote to his faith that evening? Or maybe they met on January 1st while she was sleeping off New Year's Eve. Come in, her husband's voice came from the hallway. Only. This is not exactly what we planned. There was a clatter of heels on the parquet. The rustle of an expensive coat. A light fragrance of French perfumes. Hello. Irina looked up. Vera was even more beautiful than when she saw her in the courtyard. Tall, slender, well-groomed. Well-groomed hands with impeccable manicure, fashionable haircut, confident look. But now there was confusion and something like fear in that look. Have a seat, Irina nodded at the chair. Since you've come. For a visit. I didn't know. Vera hesitated. Andrei, you told me. Irina, please don't. He clenched his fists. You don't want to hurt me, do you? Don't I have a right to know the truth? Irina grinned. What did he say about me? Or did I not exist for you? Ira, don't. Andrei approached her. Don't what? She felt anger rising inside her. Asking awkward questions. I don't want to ruin your beautiful love story. And how can I not think that the last 5 years of my life were a lie? Vera sat down in an armchair and clutched her purse in her hands. We didn't mean to hurt you. You didn't want to. Irina shook her head. Do you know what I found on the phone? Vacation photos when I thought my husband was at a conference. Messages with declarations of love when he allegedly stayed late at the office. Even. She paused. Even photos from the hospital. You gave birth 3 years ago, right? Vera turned pale. Andrea abruptly turned to her. Irina, please don't. Where are you from? I saw a picture on your phone. You're with a bouquet of roses at maternity hospital number 7. I remember that day you said you had an important meeting with clients. And I was also wondering why you were dressed up like that. Irina tried to smile, but it came out strained. Do you have a girl or a boy? There was an awkward silence in the room. I could hear the tap dripping monotonously in the kitchen. It's the same sunny day outside. The same sofa, the same photos on the walls. It's all the same, but it's completely different. A girl, Vera replied softly. She's 3.5. Masha, Andrei said suddenly. Her name is Masha. Irina felt something inside her tremble. She knew how much her husband wanted a daughter. When, after Dimka's birth, the doctors said that she would not have any more children, he could not accept it for a long time. Masha, then, she nodded slowly. And where is she now? At my mom's. Vera nervously fiddled with the strap of her bag. She often sits with her when I'm at work. Does Dad visit you in the evenings? Irina turned her gaze to her husband. Does he come by after work? Or maybe on weekends, when he says he's meeting up with friends? You don't know him, Vera said suddenly, looking up at Irina. You don't know what he's really like. Andrei is completely different with me. Don't, Andrei interrupted her. Why not? Vera's voice took on a hysterical tone. Do you think you can live in 2 houses forever? Deceive everyone? I'm tired of hiding, tired of sharing you with her. Masha keeps asking why Dad doesn't live with us. Irina looked at them and saw a completely different picture. 15 years ago, at a friend's cottage. Andrei teaches 3-year-old Dimka to ride a bike. Dad, don't let go. Don't be afraid, I'm here. In the evening, the son fell asleep in his father's arms, and she still couldn't get enough of both of them. What did you think? Andrei turned sharply to Vera. That I'll leave my family. Son? We are your family too. Vera abruptly got up from her chair. Or is Masha not your daughter? Maybe you can also challenge the paternity? Stop it, Irina said softly. Please. Just stop it. She got up and went to the bookcase. On the second shelf was an old photograph in a silver frame, their wedding photo. She was in a white dress, happy and in love. Irina took the frame and ran her finger along the glass. You know, Andrei, I remember everything. Every word of our vows. For better or worse, until death do us part. She smiled mirthlessly. It turns out that it wasn't death that separated us. We were separated by lies. IRA. No, let me finish. She put the photo back on the shelf. I don't blame you for falling in love with someone else. It happens. But you robbed me of the right to choose. For 5 years I lived in a fantasy world while you were building a real life with another woman. A mobile phone rang in the hallway. Vera got him. It's Mom. With Masha. An image of a girl with a smile and eyes similar to her father's appeared on the screen. Irina turned to the window. Downstairs, Grandma was walking with a baby in a stroller. A young mother with bags was in a hurry to get home. A regular day off in their residential area. You can go now, Andrei said dully. I'll call you later. Will you call? Vera laughed bitterly. Which phone? When the door closed behind her, a ringing silence reigned in the apartment. I'm filing for divorce, Irina said calmly, without turning to her husband. Tomorrow. Andrei went up to his wife. Don't rush to a decision. We can discuss everything. Hurry. Irina finally turned to him. Do you know what I realized now? I felt it. All this time I felt that something was wrong. Do you remember that New Year's Eve when you urgently went to a sick partner? I called your company. And 3 years ago, when you started carrying 2 bank cards. She sat down in an armchair, mechanically stroking its armrest, old, worn, so familiar. How many evenings had she spent here, waiting for her husband to return from work? I just didn't want to believe it. I convinced myself that it was just my fantasies, that I was making it up. She sighed. But Dima also suspected something. Do you remember when he asked about your frequent business trips? And you laughed it off. Let's not talk about Dima, Andrei said sharply. We won't. Irina shook her head. He's your son. And he has a sister he doesn't even know about. How were you going to live on? Hiding one world from another forever? Andrei sank down on the sofa, holding his head in his hands. I'm confused. I didn't want to hurt anyone. But he did. To everyone. Irina got up and went to the window. And you know what the worst part is? I can't hate you. I've lived with you for 20 years. You're my son's father. You. She paused. You were the meaning of my life. It started to rain outside the window. The first drops left meandering trails on the glass. I'll contact the real estate agent, Andrei said quietly. We will sell the apartment, divide it. No, Irina interrupted him. Dmitry will keep the apartment. When he graduates, he will have a place to live. And you? And I? She smiled sincerely for the first time that morning. I've wanted a change for a long time. Do you remember when I signed up for a design course a year ago? You laughed then, saying that at 45 it was too late to change your profession. Ira. You know, she turned to him, I'm grateful to you. For what? He looked at her in surprise. For finding this phone right now. Not in a year, not in 5 years. Now. When I still have the strength to start all over again. She walked over to the table and put down her phone. It's yours. I don't want to know what's inside anymore. Where are you going? To my sister's until I find an apartment. Irina went into the bedroom. And yes, Andrei. Tell Masha that she has very beautiful eyes. Just like Dad's. Irina was sitting in her sister's kitchen, holding a phone in her hands. It was the only phone she had. She texted her son. Dima, we need to talk. It's important. Then she went to the window. The area was unfamiliar and alien. But for some reason, it was here, looking at the many lights of a big city, that she felt for the first time that day that she could breathe freely. It seemed that somewhere among these lights, a new life was waiting for her. A life without lies. A life in which she would finally become herself. The phone rang softly. Mom, what happened? Are you all right? Yes, son. Everything is fine now.